Welcome back. It would seem my efforts to fully manifest myself have caused this ritual to be delayed somewhat. Unfortunately, it is not as simple as one may believe to exist in this world and contact cross dimensions. But enough of that. Where were we? Ah, yes! The beautiful dark states. As was mentioned previously, nothing in the dark states is ever as it seems. And we'll get more into that later, but to kind of give you an idea of the political landscape, the dark states are made up of several kingdoms that were once called the Dark Zone, led by many demon kings. They were united under Gear Chronicle ages ago, who created various laws despite their loss of powers. Also, they did work alongside Dragon Empire a little bit, which did manage to bring forth prosperity. But again, nothing is simple in the Dark States. When I say prosperity, most people think of peaceful farms and families and various beautiful landscapes. But in the land which is eternally covered in darkness, things are much more complex. During the Godless Era, the Demon Kin were, let's just say, violent, and they remain so, but in a different way. In lieu of a massive history lesson, I will just go forth and talk about the Demon Kin, who are full of pleasure and decadence, with a love of a variety of entertainment. One example being Gallows Bowl, which is an incredibly violent sport where one team brings explosives across a sports field. Again, things are never quite as they seem. One of the most notable teams for this game would be the famous Diabolos, or various other pronunciations depending on your linguistic persuasion. One of the main things that they are known for is their final rush tactics, where they throw all caution to the wind and go for the win. Another notable faction, while mostly diminished, is still well documented throughout history, the Pale Moon Circus. They were around long before the Godless Era, supposedly, and while a fantastic circus, they are still in fact run by demons, and they wield dark magic, and it's not uncommon for deaths to take place in one of the three wings. And the cost of admission is not necessarily money. How to explain this? There are employees of the circus known as happiness collectors, which will take a portion of the joy that their performance brings and take it as a price of admission. Many would find this distasteful, but it's tame for the most part. Then, for those who prefer higher stakes, you have individuals like the embodiment of greed and gluttony, Don Greedon and his Desire Devils. They own a massive gambling organization, and I assure you, the house does in fact always win. However, if you are one of the lucky few who do manage to make a profit in his gambling dens, congratulations! Many more lose far more than you will ever manage to gain. On the other hand, we go from the selfish to the selfless. The mother of the direful dolls, Androld. And yes, he is in fact a mother, for he does bring life to the lifeless. He is a master of fear, for lack of a better term. He's one of the few who have managed to turn the powers of emotion that allow the dark states to behave in the unusual ways that it does into a very real, tangible power source. His children are workeroids powered by fear, wielding seemingly bizarre weapons. While there are reports of his children attacking and harming, there are no records of medical treatments in response to those weapons. This could either be due to some form of bribery, or, if I am to be believed, I personally believe that his weapons are designed exclusively to invoke pain and fear and not actually cause permanent damage. Then we have a very interesting and powerful individual, Drajeweld, the leader of the Rainbow Jeweled Dragons. He is one of the more powerful individuals on this planet. However, unlike most members of Dark States, he does not seem to chase power for power's sake. Instead, it's bizarre. It almost seems like he was charged by some other being to hoard all sorts of great and powerful artifacts in his possession. Most objects that have significant power have either been held by him at one point or are currently in his possession. There is a great many questions about him for sure, and I do very much have interest in answering many of those questions. However, I do enjoy what little of my life remains, and can't imagine he would appreciate me asking many questions. Again, though, Dark States is a very bizarre place, and as such, let us go from the complicated to the simple. Refreshingly so, in fact. There is Amina Gruzio, once a ghost cat that haunted the lands of Dark States with an unspecific tragic past. We aren't entirely sure who all her friends were. However, she did lose her own life and the lives of a great many friends a long time ago, and her rage anchored her to the planet, allowing her to live beyond her fallen friends. However, an unfortunate tale, that rage was harnessed by an invader, one we will get into later, granting her an unbelievably powerful body, allowing her to cause death and destruction. While I am unsure of the fate of the great Amina Gruzio, the evil-eye dragon, I have not heard word of her since the fall of the dragon tree. Let's see, a few other interesting individuals. Who else? Ah, yes, Barrow Magnus, the mercenary turned civil engineer. Once again, Dark States is a frustratingly confusing place. One day, one can go around killing, and the next they can go and build a structure without so much as the smallest of weird looks. His powers, however, are even more of a fascinating question, as there is no semblance of magic in his action. However, despite his more technological appearance, there's also no science behind it. It does not seem to follow any of those laws. In fact, it seems remarkably similar to a set of species that was discovered not too long ago on our beautiful world. But I'm not sure how an individual would get their hands on a purely genetic power. That is the only explanation I can think of. Well, not an individual. There is one more thing that I should probably cover when talking about the Dark States, and that would be the Blandmire, a beautiful place, if you know what you're looking at. It is a swamp of despair, a true reservoir of the truest emotion of despair, and as such, things just sink deeper and deeper. Of its function, but the fact that all contacts with those in the general vicinity have stopped replying, which is mildly concerning until you remember that this is in fact the dark states, and people regularly disappear, die, or in some cases, in fact most cases, are resurrected in some way, shape, or form in the land. It's just as bizarre as it sounds. For example, Greedon does in fact eat the Desire Devils, and he also is arguably the Desire Devils. They are arguably fractions of himself, so he is merely It's a confusing process that no one really understands. He just eats them, and that's that. Speaking of the functions of dark states and how they operate, they very much specialize in dark magics, as mentioned before, and as such, they're able to manipulate souls in weird and bizarre ways, bending emotions and various other aspects of the soul to their will, building up their own soul and bolstering it in various interesting ways, and by manipulating souls are able to even bend the laws of physics to their will. Again, truly a fascinating place. Perhaps you might see some effects of this dark magic in your own world. There are definitely crossovers between our world and yours. That is something I have been able to pick up the more I have been reading this documentation. So, if there is anything that defines the dark states in your world, I would say it has to be the mastery of the soul. But that covers the dark states for us. The ritual, once again, is in fact fading. It has been a pleasure to grant you more information, and hopefully the next ritual will not take as long to process, but if it does, do bear with me. This is not a simple process.